Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nick Cavalli. I am the world champion, co-founder, and co-host of the Wrevolution Pro Wrestling Podcast. Today, we are broadcasting to you live in quarantine based on the events going on in the world today. As our world seems to get smaller and smaller, we realize as people that we are such a small part of this world that we live in. And on a day like today, a blessed Wednesday, we need something to take our minds off of the chaos that is happening outside. Something to distract us from everything that is bringing down the world around us. Something to put a smile on all of our faces. So, without further ado, we are going to bring to you live our regularly scheduled Wednesday Night Wars podcast. So, hit the lights. Hit the GD Pyro.
There's no pyro, man. What the hell are you talking about?
What do you mean there's no pyro?
We're in my basement.
So, hit the pyro.
I can't shoot pyro off of my basement. Mom will kill me.
And let's start the show.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marcus White.
And I am your Wrevolution Pro Wrestling Podcast World Heavyweight Champion.
And this,
Nick Cavalli.
And this is the Wrevolution Pro Wrestling Podcast. And something's a little off here. A little different.
What would that be?
I don't know. There's no people here, Nick.
Well, normally, for those of you who are unaware, we do tape in front of a live studio audience. And as we look around us, we're surrounded entirely by Christmas lights and musical equipment, and that's it.
Yeah, it's kind of barren back. I don't like it.
But you know what? The show must go on. Or at least in the case of AEW.
Yikes.
So tonight we actually started with AEW first. Just as a precaution in case NXT did what SmackDown or Raw did. And look, I'm going to have a different opinion than you. We've already talked about this. But at least it wasn't SmackDown or Raw.
Yes.
At least they put some kind of effort into their episode tonight. So we kick things off live with AEW, and the American Nightmare Cody is in the center of the ring. And he gives an impassioned speech, much like what I gave, saying that, first of all, he calls out the Elite. He says that we need to stand together. In a time like this, when the world feels so small, the people that I love, we need to stand together and work together. It is kind of an example of what's going on in the world today. Yes. So it's a simile, if you will.
He essentially does what Triple H did on Friday Night SmackDown, except he did it better than Triple H, and he even tied it into a storyline.
Yep. And so Kenny and Matt Jackson come down to the ring, and they put in their 2 words. Kenny says, we've not always seen eye to eye, but I am part of the Elite. I love you. I will be here for you. I will go through this battle with you.
In contrast to Matt, who's like, look, I get it. I understand what you both are saying. This is great and everything, but it's just us. My brother Nick is out indefinitely in the hospital, and where's Hangman?
And Hangman Adam Page comes up, stands on the stage, and Cody says, "Will you stand with us?" He gives him a toast, shakes his head, and walks away. And then Kenny Omega grabs the mic and says, "Turn on the lights, hit the goddamn pyro, let's kick off Dynamite."
So AEW Dynamite tonight was live from Daly's place,
Jacksonville, Florida.
And we had Taz back on commentary.
And we had a crowd? What is that considered a crowd?
I'd say it's a crowd.
It's so cool. So AEW did exactly what we've been saying that everyone should be doing, and they allowed the talent who either was not being utilized during the show or had a part earlier or later in the show to sit in the crowd, act as though they're fans. Because, I mean, most people who wrestle are wrestling fans.
And they let them do whatever the hell they wanted, with a couple planned spots, of course.
Of course. So MJF immediately is interviewed by Tony Schiavone, and he's at ringside with Wardlow and Sean Spears. Welcome back to Dynamite.
Well, I'm better than you, and you know it. I don't have to wrestle. I mean, I know AEW's giving out a little bonus for the people that are competing here tonight, and I'm sure they need it, but I don't. I'm the salt of the earth.
Why would I want to get in the ring with them at a time like this?
So I'll give the undercard talent the spotlight that they need.
They deserve some TV time.
We then see that apparently MJF and Sean Spears are doing something that perhaps looks like gambling. So Tony Schiavone calls him out on. He goes, "What did you just say? This is the biggest accusation. Do you realize what you just did?" Unless you want to get on this, a little bit.
All right, JR, back to you. Hey, Sean, how much you got there?
So, yes, MJF, Sean Spears, and Tony are now taking bets on the matches going on throughout the night. And we find out first that there's no Justin Roberts tonight, which normally would be a sad thing.
But Brandy Rhodes,
who said she would never ring announce ever again.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Brandy and Cody met each other, actually, in the WWE.
Brandy was a ring announcer.
And Cody, of course, was Stardust.
Stardust, yes. And they fell in love, and the rest is history, right?
Yes, so Brandy, I mean, I don't blame her the way she was treated in WWE, and she did come out and say she was horribly mistreated in that company. Said, I don't ever want to do this again, to be honest with you. But they had only essential personnel on site tonight, so Justin Roberts, I guess, wasn't essential personnel.
He's probably doing something with his family or something, I mean, they're probably like, yeah, if you don't got to be here, you don't got to be here.
Yeah, like, so take care of yourself if you don't have to be here tonight.
So then we get the first match, which is the Best Friends versus the Lucha Brothers. And who would be on commentary but one freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy.
The king of sloth style himself is on commentary, and he's asleep.
He's gone. Immediately passes out.
Out cold. It was a fantastic match. I mean, these two tag teams have fought quite a few times over the last, I'd say, 4 months. And they consistently put on great matches.
What I liked was they go for their patented hug, and then they're like, oh, no, social distancing. And they do the elbow.
And the camera pans out like the hug happened. It was great.
That was fantastic. Now, this is something happened that I didn't agree with. Was a little bit of sloppy booking, I feel like. So Cassidy, at one point, hits
the OC?
Yeah, the OC. Hits a leap of faith onto the Lucha Brothers. Of course, that doesn't lead to the match there. But then later on, we get a low blow by Lucha Brothers into a package penta driver for the win. Now, you're probably wondering what makes that confusing. Well, it's because of the fact that, okay, so you have Orange Cassidy interfering in the match, and then you get the classic heel, low blow, refs distracted, whatever, which leads to their victory. Now, the whole point of that is that you're supposed to play up to the heel character. Oh, that's what the heels do. They're doing underhanded tactics, but you had Cassidy interfere in the match earlier. So, if anything, it just kind of looks like it's justified, like it's balanced out. Like, oh, you're going to do something
Unless,
like that.
Of course, one of the Lucha Bros called out Cassidy's mom. You never know what they said.
Well, and that's why I said it would have been different if Pac was on the ringside, because then, you could see, well, maybe Pac's going to do something, or he does something, but no, it was just the Lucha Brothers, and then Best Friends had OC, so it's a little weird to see kind of just, AEW doesn't normally do confusing booking like that, so to see something just so strange, it was just like, well, that was just wrong, so I don't know. If anything, it kind of looked like Lucha Bros are justified in their actions, which is, if you're trying to paint them as heels, which you so desperately are, not the way to go about it. Yeah.
So we move on next to the women's fatal four-way match.
So the Best Friends after the match,
the post-match
they are heated, which again kind of weird. But they're like, oh yeah, the Lucha Bros, they're cheaters, blah, blah, blah. As I'm rolling my eyes throughout this entire segment.
We don't need a referee. We don't need a ring. Next week, street fight. And we mean street fight.
Like in a parking lot, doesn't matter.
Like, not in a wrestling ring with a referee. With rules. Looking at you, WWE. Calling your hardcore matches street fights.
It's probably still going to be a ref, maybe. I don't know how they're going to do it.
Either way, but still, this is a street fight in the middle of the ring.
I don't care. At least it's not the fist fight that Raw did a a month or so ago, which that was really bad. So I'm okay with it. It'll work. Just be a little better about your booking there. So yeah, as you were going to say, we do get into the women's division, which is Penelope Ford versus Riho, Chris Statlander, and Hikaru Shida. Yeah. So Penelope Ford's back on television.
Which is an unfortunate sign.
Riho showed up this week.
Yeah, she did a match on Dark and a match on Dynamite. What is this?
Duty, man. They must have upped her pay or something.
Something like that.
So yeah, this match was actually really good, though. I mean, all jokes aside, the women did a really good job. There were a couple botches, mainly from Penelope Ford.
One big botch.
Yeah.
There were a couple spots that it was like, oh, that didn't look very crisp. And then there was the Hurricane Rana where Penelope Ford fell on her back and Chris Statlander had to somehow sell that.
Yeah, that was bad. Yeah. And Taz going, well, she didn't get all of that one.
Yeah,
You think? She didn't touch her. So
it really looked like Statlander hit a power bomb. I was like, huh?
And then we get another kind of goofy spot as you kind of get, Penelope Ford versus Shida for like 5 to 7 minutes by themselves.
It wasn't quite that long.
As Riho and Statlander just kind of take
certainly longer than it needed to be, though.
Yeah, they just kind of were like, okay, bye. I don't even know what happened for them to be asleep that long. But yeah, so you get this like one-on-one, and then Shida hits a running knee strike, and that's the match.
So cool. Hikaru Shida has won 2 big women's matches in a row now. So
yeah, I mean, at least I give her credit in this match. I mean, she has now beaten a former women's champion, so that's huge.
Everything looked really, really good from her. We go ringside. Tony Schiavone, another interview. His interviews were on point today, by the way. Another interview with Boom Colt Cabana, and he asked Colt Cabana what he thought about it. You know, it's nice to have you in, Colt. You know, how do you feel? He's like, well, I'm undefeated. I might be 2-0, but I'm undefeated. He's like, I'm happy to be here, and it was really cool to be here today. I mean, this is unlike anything I've ever seen. I've never been a part of a match or a card where there's no fans outside of other wrestlers. He's like, so this is very different. But our women's division really showed out today. They're very, very talented, with the exception of Penelope Ford.
To which Kip Sabian takes extreme exception, walks up and tries to instigate a fight with Colt Cabana, who just brushes him off. Like
Colt Cabana smacks him across the face, and as Kip Sabian says, you want to fight? Colt goes, you do realize I'm a wrestler too, bud.
He's like, yeah, I'm a wrestler too. You want to fight? Let's go.
I'll jump the barricade. I'm not just some scrawny dude who's like, or some like neckbeard who's sitting front row.
Which, by the way, Colt Cabana is a big man.
Yeah.
So compared to Kip Sabian, at least. So I don't know if you want that smoke there.
Boom Colt scary.
So next we get the revelation that Jon Moxley will not be on AEW television today because he is on the Do Not Enter list due to not being medically cleared. So we find out that news. By the way, he's still driving around the car he took from Jericho.
The Ford GT, baby.
Yeah, so he just basically just says, hey, look, I may not be allowed in tonight. I'm going to go blow off some steam a little bit because with everything that's going on, last thing AEW needs is me punching a couple cops. But, just know, Inner Circle, I will always be in your blind spot.
So, you know what I find really cool about this? Obviously, the continuity of the car. But Tony Khan knows his fan base. He could have gone anywhere and gotten any car. He could have spent less and bought a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or a Porsche. Because that's just how expensive a Ford GT is. He's like, nah, this is America. I mean, look at most wrestling fans. America! So, he bought a Ford GT. Didn't rent, bought a Ford GT. Because that is certainly the same car.
I mean, at least we can only assume. I mean, it wouldn't be hard to just
But there's not that many GTs.
If you're rich, there are.
There.
I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, we've seen it with WWE with the Alberto Del Rio gimmicks and everything. So, I mean, although I will say he probably did buy it because, I mean, I'm assuming that's what they did with when Eddie Guerrero used to drive his cars out.
His lowrider, yeah.
So,
that was Eddie's car.
Yeah, so
that wasn't cheap.
No, so I'm assuming, yeah, they probably... Same thing with the JBL.
JBL's limo. I was just going to say that. And that certainly wasn't cheap.
And I'm sure Vince was probably crying as they destroyed it. Who was it? John Cena in Crime Time ripped that apart.
I'm sorry. Or Vince McMahon's Corvette.
Corvette, yeah. So, wow, how has WWE not gone out of business with all the cars that they've just wrecked over the years?
Yeah, I'm going to buy a limousine. Yeah, okay, by the end of this, we're going to have to rip it apart with John Cena and Crime Time. You're going to what?
That's not in the budget, Vince. It's in the budget. So, no, I'm sure. I mean, the cons have money for days, so yeah, they probably bought it.
But yeah, mad props to knowing your audience on that one. I mean, I would have been fine with whatever, but I mean, a huge portion of wrestling fans are the kind that'll say, you don't buy American, you're not a true patriot or something like that. So,
yeah.
Mad props.
So, next we get The Butcher and the Blade versus Jurassic Express with no Bunny.
And no Marco Stunt.
Yeah.
Which, again, they talked about only essential personnel. I suppose that's what they mean.
Yeah.
So on their way to the ring, the Butcher and the Blade take a little bit of cash from MJF on the side.
Yep.
And MJF talks to them about something. We don't know because Jurassic Express are entering at this point.
At this point, you see Jungle Boy almost get decapitated by a piece of firework.
Ripsky.
Yeah. Again, I told Nick, Jungle Boy's probably after this match going to go and find one member of management to be like, hey, I love the new pyro, but maybe don't kill me with it.
Can we aim higher, please?
Yeah, so this match, again, phenomenal. Every time we've seen it, it's been great.
The Butcher and the Blade continue every single week to just put on a better show than the week before.
This, again, is just another demonstration. My God, I don't know what the hell, like we talked about it last week when you were saying, where they just feel like Jurassic Express just isn't ready yet. You take away Marco Stunt, I don't know what the hell anyone's talking about. Like, they look phenomenal. And again, this is not a knock on Marco Stunt. But those two specifically, like the chemistry...
Well, they have chemistry.
Exactly.
They worked together before Marco Stunt even came around.
Exactly. So just slap the belts on them. Like, they're ready. Like, slap a rocket ship and send them to the moon because they're ready to go, baby.
They're one of the hottest tag teams. They might be the hottest tag team in the business right now.
Exactly. So it's time. And I just need to see more Luchasaurus.
So during the match, towards the end here, unless you have any spots you want to call out in the middle.
I was going to say MJF shouts full death at Butcher and the Blade. So they look like they had this match well in hand, but as soon as that happens, they immediately just go to attempt their finisher.
Right on Jungle Boy, to which Luchasaurus, I can't talk today, to which Luchasaurus helps Jungle Boy escape. They kick the Butcher out of the ring and hit the Blade with their finisher.
And then there's kind of this weird spot where Jungle Boy looked like he was going to go for a tope suicida on Butcher, but he was just out on the outside of the ring. So then he just kind of slides out and kicks him.
Yeah, so I hope everything's okay, Butcher. We really like you.
Yeah, but Jurassic Express pick up the victory. Hey,
finally. That brings him back to 500.
Thank God, seriously. And next, we get one of the best segments of the entire night. The Dark Order. Dark Order comes out. And you have Evil Uno proclaiming the arrival of the Exalted One.
The Exalted One is near. The Exalted One is near. And Evil Uno knows who the Exalted One is.
So at this point, Chris Daniels, Kazarian, what's his name?
Scorpio Sky.
No Scorpio Sky tonight, which a little weird there. But yeah, SCU comes out. Daniels is like, stop. Oh my God, stop. you guys, it's been the same thing for 3 months. You come out here, you proclaim, the Dark Order, Exhalted One's coming, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's been the same spiel every week. No one cares anymore. You're not helping anyone. Like, the only people you've helped is yourselves. You've helped to advance your career. There is no Exalted One.
The video board kicks on. And at this point, they tease Matt Hardy hard. They have the voices from his Free the Delete scenes, the voice of the deities, and Brody Lee is definitely wearing his Woken Matt Hardy ring gear.
Yeah, it definitely looks like something Matt Hardy would wear. So, although I knew immediately when I saw him, I was like, that's not Matt Hardy.
So, I just spoiled it. It's Brody Lee. Brody
Yes.
Lee, FKA, Luke Harper. And my God, this man looks amazing. And he says the line of the night. Christopher Daniels, you're not the first old man to underestimate and undervalue me.
Get the quote right. You're not the first out of touch old man to not believe in me, but you will be the last. So, shots fired at Vince McMahon and WWE, and well-deserved shots, by the way, because screw you, Vince, for not seeing the obvious talent you had in Luke Harper, now Brody Lee.
You and I were at that show in Detroit, the SmackDown show, where Luke Harper was finally getting his singles push, and it looked like finally we were going to get Luke Harper versus Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. The whole crowd wanted it.
Yes.
Everyone in the IWC wanted it. And we got Randy Orton instead.
Yep.
So that is the biggest middle finger. Hey, you remember when you did the thing with Randy Orton and nobody watched?
I mean, I will get... I'll say this. At least the start of the Randy Orton feud looked like it had potential. And then you did the whole House of Horrors thing, which was... Yikes.
So Brody Lee then pops up.
I will say, though, if that was their plan, was to do House of Horrors, I'm kind of happy it was Randy and not Luke Harper. I don't want to put that mess on poor Brody Lee.
Me too, bud. So Brody Lee pops up in the ring behind the Dark Order and behind SCU. He hits a big boot. This is... Sneezing isn't a symptom of coronavirus. You're fine. He hits a big boot, and then he goes for Sister Abigail.
Yeah, teases the finisher, but then whips out of it into
the patented discus lariat, which was his finisher in WWE.
Yes.
That was just such a cool spot. Like, I love Brody Lee. I've only seen a little bit of his indie stuff because he hit WWE before I really got back into wrestling. But this man is an outstanding talent, one of the most athletic big men ever. The match that no one knows they need to see is Luke Harper and Luke Harper. God, that's going to take a minute. Brody Lee and Lance Archer.
And then after the attack, you get the entire Dark Order chanting, "Who are you? We are one. Who are you? We are one." And then Brody Lee and the rest of Dark Order walk off backstage.
Yes. So, shirts are 20% off tonight with promo code Dynamite. Brody Lee already has a shirt.
Yep. So
go do the thing.
I'm really happy that it was Brody Lee as the Exalted One. I feel like he definitely fits more in a role like this.
Right. And I don't want it to be Matt Hardy. It just, as long as Matt Hardy shows up in AEW.
And especially the fact that, too, with someone, again, and I said it before, with someone like a Luke Harper / Brody Lee, where the crowd, the audience may not know exactly who he is. No, we might not know the name Brody Lee. So to attach a gimmick like this on him, you immediately put him right in the main spot and just, strap a rocket ship on him. So I think that's a good idea.
This is the point we get a couple more interviews at ringside. And
yeah, you get the Lance Archer interview.
And by that, we mean Jake the Snake Roberts interview.
Yes, who says, look, Lance isn't here to talk.
You got to get the voice right. Lance isn't here to talk.
Yeah, he goes on about how he feels that Cody Rhodes has disrespected them because they laid out the gauntlet, and we've heard nothing since.
All you've done is run and hide, And now we're going to do everything we can to get right in your face.
I'm a Hall of Famer. You got to at least listen to me, right? And look, I listened to the Elite. We heard them bitching. And like a bunch of high school girls arguing over who's going to take who to the prom. It's pathetic. He says, look, shut me up if you can, but I don't think you can. It wasn't personal before, but now it will be personal. It is personal. We will get your attention. So.
Yeah.
Fire.
Again, Jake the Snake, 10 out of 10.
Fire promo.
Lance Archer looking terrifying the whole time. And then we get a Lance Archer promo package?
Where everybody dies.
Which, yes, I get the gimmick, the song. His new nickname is the Murder Hawk.
Yeah, that's a thing. That's almost as bad as Psycho Killer.
I mean,
looking at you, Tommaso Ciampa.
I could be wrong. I don't think that was his nickname in New Japan. I might have missed something. Yeah. I thought it was the Murder Monster in New Japan. Murder Hawk.
Yeah, that's a thing. So this promo package essentially consisted of him just being
squashing
in a ring in some undisclosed location. Jake the Snake.
Oh no, they said it was the Murder Hawk Mansion.
But the location is undisclosed. And Jake the Snake just kind of sitting in a chair outside the ring watching. And who I could be wrong, but he looked very similar to Hornswoggle as the announcer. I'm pretty sure it was. I don't want to be that guy that's like, well, they all look the same to me, so I don't want to be that guy, but it definitely looked like it was Swoggle, but regardless of who it was, whatever.
How dare you call him Hornswoggle?
Yeah, it would just be Swoggle.
He's an AEW. It's Swoggle.
Yeah, just be Swoggle, yeah. So, whatever. You got Lance Archer just beating up random jobbers, taking on everyone big and small, lays everyone out. They all look like they're dead inside the ring, and as it looks like him and Jake the Snake are about to leave, some random guy runs up, "Hey, bitch, take me on. I'll kick your ass."
He gets his head. Well, first he gets choke slammed into the front of a car,
and then he gets his head repeatedly slammed
into the hood.
So that guy's dead. And that's the end of that segment. So, well, you did something. You're
living up to the name.
Yeah. That's a thing. Next, we get Hangman. Oh, excuse me.
Hand wash.
Hand wash. Adam Page, who's been social distancing since November, apparently.
Yeah, so it's six-man tag team action with the Inner Circle
is a mystery.
And
it's to clarify, it's Santana and Ortiz, and then Jake Hager.
And then, of course, Chris Jericho comes out, to which Sammy Guevara, MJF, and Shawn Spears are singing his theme in the crowd.
And at one point, Sammy grabs a microphone and bellows out Jericho's theme.
Jericho says on the commentary, because that's where he is for the match, no matter what's happening in the world, nothing will ever stop fans from singing the chorus of Fozzy, or of Judas.
So, yeah, it's Santana and Ortiz and Hager versus Hangman, Cody, and Matt Jackson. So, this match, it's the Elite versus Inner Circle. It's going to be a great match. And it was a great match. You still got the interplay of Matt Jackson and Hangman still not loving each other, if liking each other at all. Which is kind of putting Cody in a weird spot. You got Kenny on the outside of the ring. Him and Cody are just kind of like, come on, y'all, get over it. At one point, you saw where Cody tags in Matt Jackson, Matt Jackson tags in Cody, and they're doing like this tag team move, and Hangman's just like,
why didn't you tag me in?
You didn't see me? Do you not have eyes? Like, hello? So, and then later on, you get a blind tag from Hangman to Matt Jackson. It looks like Matt's about to, just power up a little bit, do his signature moves and everything, and Hangman's just like, I guess I'm in the match. So, what a jerk.
Yeah. And just a reminder to everybody, this match was for the numbers advantage at Blood and Guts, which may or may not be next week? Question mark?
Yeah, hopefully they go forward with it.
Yeah, so Blood and Guts, numbers advantage, the winning team gets the first person.
So, which, by the way, up to this point, it's a 4v5.
Yes, because Nick Jackson is not medically cleared to compete because, well, Jericho tried to kill him.
Yes. No, they were trying to call for help.
Right, they just found him there under the garage door, and they were calling for help. I'm so sorry, I totally forgot.
Yeah, out here accusing people.
Gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm as bad as Shivani.
No, you're as bad as Marinallo. Johnny Turncoat.
Yikes.
Yeah, so, and then at one point, this is kind of the cool thing is that, again, you do have the wrestlers at ringside, and they start doing chants, which is really cool. But then, because you have, again, storylines to build, at one point, Ortiz gets thrown into MJF by Cody. Wardlow takes exception to this, grabs Cody by the throat, to which Bill Belichick himself, Arn Anderson, comes waddling over with a...
the Waffle House menu, as Jericho said.
And he smacked Wardlow in the back with it. That's a mistake.
So we're seeing Wardlow versus Arn Anderson,
versus
right?
Arn Anderson. Yikes. Can't wait to watch
Match
that.
of the year.
Yeah, that's a thing. So then we actually get a little bit of camaraderie from Matt Jackson and Hangman for a minute. You know, they're doing tag team moves. Everything's going great. Until Matt Jackson wants Hangman to hit him and Nick Jackson's finishing move.
Yes, so he looks at Hangman. He goes, come on, hit the Indie Taker.
Which I wanted to see this so bad. But
I did too.
Hangman's like, you want me to do what now?
And then Hangman finally jumps up, and he's dragged back down.
Santana rose up Matt Jackson for the 1, 2, 3. So now Inner Circle has the advantage at Blood and Guts.
Jericho is on the mic, and he says, I knew it. I knew we would do this, and we'll do this again at Blood and Guts for 4 reasons. 1, we're the Inner Circle. 2, you don't see us fighting amongst ourselves.
We're not hitting each other with each other's finishers.
We're not drinking a little drink ski at ringside. And what was this third point? I don't even remember.
I don't remember.
Clearly, it was very memorable.
No, but what was the most memorable was obviously the fourth
And of course, third one is we're gonna have the man advantage.
Yep, man advantage.
And the fourth one is, and it's not even 5-on-5. Nick Jackson can't compete. There's only 4 of you. The sight of a white drone.
Vanguard 1, baby.
Vanguard 1 shows up on AEW.
V1.
Oh,
Throw it up.
there we go. That way.
I mean, I was just going to say the V1.
Yeah.
I know what it is.
So Vanguard 1 lands in the ring, and Matt Jackson says, well, you got 3 of those right. But unfortunately, I don't think you got the 4th one. You see, Nick may not be able to compete, but I made a call to a friend who owes me a favor. The camera pans, and in the spotlight,
As piano music plays,
Matt friggin' Hardy.
Matt Hardy is in all delete wrestling.
Which, by the way, that t-shirt also on sale already on shopaew.com. I've already copped myself one, to be honest. So Matt Hardy is officially All Elite. Now, it doesn't mean that he's signed. It could be a one-off, but let's be honest. He tweeted out.
I mean, they've got T-shirts. He's in AEW. They wouldn't sell merch if he wasn't.
He tweeted out just after the end of the show, just one word, Arcadia. And he had gone on a whole rant earlier in the month about how this is his quest to find Arcadia, to find the wrestling utopia, a place where he can be himself. To tweet that, He's all elite. And not only is he all elite, he's not the Exalted One. They literally tease him as the Exalted One all the way up till tonight, crush our dreams by making it Brody Lee, and on the same night he debuts.
And he's broken, Matt, still. So it's
very much so broken.
Very broken. Like, he's got the stripe back. He's doing
the stripe's red now.
So it's he's full on broken Matt Hardy.
The stripe's red now. The ironic thing is the ring gear that he was wearing is literally just the black version of what Brody Lee was wearing tonight.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, it's like his classic, like...
that's his broken gimmick. And then Brody Lee was wearing what was basically his woken gimmick attire.
Yeah. So.
Ironic. But Matt freaking Hardy is in AEW.
So, it was at this point, which I'm just going to, spoiler alert, AEW is my show of the night because there was nothing that was going to top Brody Lee and Matt Hardy debuting, which...
On the same
By
night.
the way, friggin' bold move from AEW to debut Brody Lee and Matt Hardy, not only on the same night, but on the night in front of nobody.
Well, that's just like Cody said, right?
Yeah, that's
exactly what Cody said.
It's bold, I'll tell you that. It definitely takes a little bit of guts there to blood and guts, to do something so impactful to your company, so like something that you know is going to change the landscape of your organization for the future, and to take the risk of the pop and the reaction it's going to get. That. Months, years down the line when you're doing replays of this spot, how it's not going to be in front of thousands of people. It's just going to be, Hardy just kind of popping up. So you definitely take a risk there, but it's a calculated risk, and I'm just going to say it's going to pay off. There's no way it doesn't. I mean, it's going to resonate with the crowd, what you did, and it's freaking Matt Hardy and it's Brody Lee, so...
It already has resonated with the crowd. I was out looking on Twitter before we started the show, and there were people tweeting Matt Hardy saying, I know that you didn't get the pop that you deserved because no one was there, but I hope you could hear and feel the pop happening in living rooms and basements and everywhere across the world because every single one of us marked out the second you showed up.
Now, what matters is not the initial reaction, but what matters is what goes on from here, where they take it, what they do with Matt Hardy and AEW, and how fans take it going forward. I mean, are you going to see more fans now come over from WWE because now you've got Matt Hardy and you've got Luke Harper, Brody Lee. So that's going to be interesting to see is where that goes. Like, did WWE do enough damage to the Matt Hardy brand and character to make this just sort of like, kind of his last run and like it's just kind of like, oh, that's cool, nostalgic, whatever? Or is this like, this is that next big step? Is this, this is it? Like we got our guy. Like this is going to be like Jericho coming to AEW and like, I'm going to put this company on my back for however many years I have, and I'm going to do the best I can to make sure that All Elite Wrestling is the best company in the world. So that's going to be interesting to see definitely going forward here. But as far as I am concerned, you hit the nail on the head and spot on. Fantastic job.
My favorite thing about this, two things. First of all, anybody who follows Matt Hardy brand on Twitter or YouTube or anything of the above, they know that WWE was doing what WWE was doing because he was leaving. So I think the only people who you really have to worry about are people who don't follow the character as closely as they just follow the product that is WWE. In addition, I have so much respect, and I always have, but I have so much respect for Cody Rhodes, for Tony Khan, and for those guys. When Cody was asked about Dynamite, he said, we're not going to hold back. We are going to push forward. We are going to give you a quality product every single week that we can. And we're going to... Jeez, I'm losing my belt. We're going to do this for you. Just because you're not in the crowd doesn't mean that you're not watching. It doesn't mean that you don't deserve the best wrestling product we can possibly provide you. And you proved that tonight. Instead of being in Rochester, New York in front of tens of thousands of people like you were supposed to be, in Brody Lee's hometown. You debuted Brody Lee. And instead of being in Rochester, New York in front of tens of thousands of people, you were in front of 10 people when you debuted possibly the hottest or the second hottest talent from WWE that you've ever gotten. One of the most over wrestling characters in the world. You did exactly what you said you were going to do, and for that, you built the fan for a lifetime. So, you want to move on to NXT now, or should we go with match of the night since there weren't any matches in NXT?
Well, yeah, you spoiled it. I was going to say, yeah, it's going to be a match of the night, and it's going to be literally of the whole night because, yeah, NXT didn't have any matches, and we'll explain as we go into the NXT segment of this video. So my match of the night is probably going to be the Butcher and the Blade and Jurassic Express.
That was my first idea. And then after that I went, oh no, the Lucha Bros match. And then I went, I just can't bet against the Elite. It's the Elite and the Inner Circle. The matches, all three of them were fantastic matches.
Yes.
One of them set up something out of this world huge, which is Blood and Guts, whenever that takes place, with the addition of one Matt Hardy brand, the second coming of Matt Hardy, as he has put in your MVP tonight.
My MVP, It's hard in the fact that you had two debuts. You had two debuts. You also had
amazing matches.
Well, not even just that, but what you had people in the crowd doing, like MJF.
Oh yeah, MJF was out of
throughout the entire show, man. Which is why I have to go MJF as my MVP because he was entertaining start to finish. Still keeping narratives in regards to his hatred of Cody Rhodes, still keeping narratives in regards to teasing his relationship with the Inner Circle, and then just the fact showing that you don't have to be in a wrestling ring to still be one of the most entertaining people on the show. You can still build your character, keep kayfabe going, keep, building your brand, and he's an amazing talker. And he did what he does best all night tonight. So it's hard for me to not go MVP of the whole show. Yeah, MJF.
I am so sorry, Brody Lee. From the outset of learning you were debuting tonight, regardless of if you were the Exalted one or whatnot, that you were debuting tonight, I had my mind made up. You were my MVP tonight. And then Matt Hardy showed up. And I'm so sorry because you deserved the night. You deserved the spotlight. Not only was this a big debut because you are debuting, but you are the leader of one of the biggest stables in the company right now. There's 3 big stables. I really wanted to choose you, and your lines and everything. You had my vote until the last 60 seconds of the show. Matt Hardy, dude, you are and forever will be one of my favorite wrestlers. You always have been. Growing up, I was a huge V1 Matt Hardy fan. And to go back and watch TLC and stuff with Team Extreme and to watch your matches versus your brother, to watch stuff from the Broken gimmick and some of the early stuff from the Woken gimmick before it got a little goofy. You just always have been one of my favorite wrestlers, and to see you finally doing what you love in front of 10 people, but in front of hundreds of thousands of people on TV, it just means the world, dude. I know you did it on Impact, but Impact doesn't draw the crowd that Dynamite does. This is huge for you, and I'm so glad that you finally have found your home where you belong. Your wrestling utopia. Obvious runner-up to Brody Lee. In fact, I will give you Fight Mode Fighter of the Night tonight, Brody Lee. You came out in fight mode, you kicked the hell out of SCU, and you left. But MVP tonight it's got to be Matt Hardy.
All right. So let's move on now to NXT. So there are 3 ways you can look at dealing with this crisis that we're in around the world with this whole coronavirus mess. You can go the way Raw and SmackDown have been going about it, which is just putting on greatest hits from different pay-per-views, half-ass matches and promos that no one really cares about. You can go about it the way AEW went about it, which is the way we've been saying to go about it.
Absolute balls to the walls.
Just still put on your show, but also take advantage of the fact that there's no one there. You can do stuff like have wrestlers in the crowd, being the crowd, doing whatever the hell they want.
I mean, the interaction between MJF and Cody right there, that just shows it works.
Exactly. Like, it's amazing. The fact you're able to do so much more. I mean, not to mention the fact that you can have talent that's underutilized on your show and put them out there and say, all right, hey, here's your little 6 seconds of fame. Go out there and be entertaining. Maybe this will lead to something for you. So, like, we had people like Sonny Kiss out there who we haven't seen really ever on AEW Dynamite.
Yep, and I bet you Sean Spears gets a run now with MJF at some point.
Oh, I hope
those two look like they're best of buds, and
yeah,
I'd love to see that.
Sean found his partner finally.
Oh, I hope so.
And then there's a third way, which wasn't something that I had thought of, but honestly, kudos to NXT for doing something that going just completely left field, honestly. Like, had you thought about doing something like this?
I had, but not literally the whole show.
Yeah.
See, I had thought about, because, in our 2K Universe mode, in the lead up to our version of WrestleMania, we have done a couple of shows where it's literally all promos and like 2 matches.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, you could just do like an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes of promos and like have a match or something.
One. Yeah, and I think that's where that is where I agree with you in the fact that they should have done it. Even if you don't want to do a match, then just do a promo but actually have physically in the ring something.
So they weren't even at the Performance Center.
No.
They were live from headquarters in Bridgeport,
global headquarters in Bridgeport, Connecticut. So they're at WWE headquarters, which threw me off because I know I'm pretty sure that at least there's a ring in the headquarters. So
the world may never know.
Literally, no one knows because there are no cameras allowed.
There's also no tours.
No tours at all. Like, it's unless you're WWE authorized. Sometimes they do little stuff like little inside things, but yeah, it's a mystery. It's like the Mansion family, like, freaking compound. Like, no one's allowed in there, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, they had Triple H and Tom Phillips. They were on commentary, but no, they were just hosting the show live from Connecticut. And which I looked at Nick, I'm like, well, this is going to be weird. I don't know how they're going to do matches or whatever. And that's because they didn't do matches. So what NXT did was they decided to take the entire show to kind of flesh out their storylines, pure promo based. Talk about, this is the thing with NXT is that it's always go, 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 go. It's always high speed. You never really have a chance to kind of stop and breathe. That's the biggest criticism I feel like for a lot of people for something like NXT is that, yeah, the action's amazing. Yeah, the wrestlers are some of the best in the world, but you never really get sometimes the storylines are secondary. Like, you never really get the time to flesh out characters, flesh out storylines. It's just kind of like, well, there is a storyline, but let's be honest, you just want to watch these two guys kick the crap out of each other. So now
how I feel about indie wrestling.
So you took the time tonight to go, okay, why are Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa really fighting? Okay, what is it? What's the deal with Rhea Ripley? Why is Finn Balor a heel? Like, you took the time. Those were the 3 storylines that you took the time tonight to address, mainly because Ciampa and Gargano took up an hour and a half of the entire show.
Yeah, so, which I'm not complaining.
It's without a doubt the most compelling storyline on NXT besides Velveteen Dream and Adam Cole, right. Which you don't need to flesh that out. That's just I want the gold, title. I want title, please. So that's not a storyline you got to flesh out. So while again, I do think you should have done maybe something like do a match like I don't even know what you could do. I mean, you could do anything. Really, it doesn't matter as long as I guess you get something for the people that are like, I need a match. Why am I watching a soap opera? This is boring. Blah blah blah. But then there are people.
Me.
But then you have again the people like me who are like, I've always been, since I was a kid. What got me into wrestling wasn't the wrestling. It wasn't watching The Undertaker just choke slam people and big boot people, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't watching Kane, just do whatever. What got me into wrestling, my first introduction into wrestling was watching The Undertaker's character, watching him come out and going, wow, why does this guy do the things he does? What makes him tick? Where is he from? What's his background? Like, I cared about The Undertaker more than just what he did in the ring, but about his character. And that's what makes him one of the greatest performers ever, because it's an overarching from start to finish. What makes this guy tick? You care about the legacy of The Undertaker. That's what made the Kane character work so bad. Because Lord knows, at least when he first came out, Kane wasn't like the greatest in-ring performer, but it was
Has anybody watched him before he was Kane?
Exactly. So it was
Dr. Isaac Yankem DDS.
So it wasn't about what he's doing in the ring. Let's be honest, until the last match, Taker versus Kane, like their original matches were all horrible. Like they were flat out bad. They've admitted like they weren't the best. But you didn't care because it was, oh my God, Taker has a half brother who he potentially murdered, and you've got this guy who he can control flame, and Taker can shoot lightning bolts, and where does Paul Bearer fit in all this? Like it was insane. It was crazy. I mean,
well, then we find out that Paul Bearer was screwing Taker's mom.
Yeah, so it's just, I've always been into the storylines, of WWE. That's what got me into wrestling. That was some of the biggest things with, like, for instance, Impact Wrestling, well, when it was TNA at the time, when you had the stuff with Main Event Mafia, you had the storylines with AJ Styles. That's what gets me with NXT now, is the storyline with Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, because this isn't just something that just kind of came out of left field. This is something, as you see tonight, they've been building for literally like 3-4 years now, like probably more than that. Like this has been something that's overarching. It's the Fight Forever storyline, and that's why I love this. That's what I loved about AEW. You saw the storyline with Chris Jericho and Jon Moxley, the way, like, it's the Inner Circle. Who's going to knock off Jericho? I mean, just, oh my God, what they did with Cody Rhodes and MJF. So yes, the wrestling is important. I will never say that it's not, especially nowadays, as I am always the guy that's like, but the wrestling, so that's always me nowadays. So it probably sounds weird hearing that from me talking about storylines, but at my core, I love storylines in wrestling.
And that's how it was for me when I was growing up. When I was growing up, it was about the storylines. My biggest memory of wrestling was the first time I saw the Great Khali and him just tearing apart the Undertaker.
Yes,
that is like my most vivid memory of wrestling, and clearly it was not for the wrestling aspect.
Yeah, that's
Khali could hardly walk.
Mm-hmm.
But what got me back into wrestling was more of the art, the sport, the athletics. Storylines are still very important. There's a reason that Jon Moxley is one of my favorites. He's not a 5-star classic in-ring technician that's going to do all the flippy stuff.
I'd say he's a 4-star in-ring general, though.
I would say that as well, and I'd say he could put on a 5-star classic, but he's not Kenny Omega, okay? He's not Kenny.
Yeah.
No one's Kenny Omega, except maybe AJ Styles and Kazuchika Okada. So there's a reason I love guys like that, but there has to be some kind of combination for me to care.
Well, and I guess that's my thing, though, is that unlike what you see on the main roster, where it's almost all goofy storylines that don't make any sense, that's kind of what's been killing the main roster of WWE for years, is that they go too hard. They lean too hard into the storylines, the goofy stuff with Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt.
Yes.
Like the stuff with, he's Seth Rollins, and I'm not just like some guy that
I'm Jesus.
I am literally God himself, worship me. So it gets a little corny, and sometimes the wrestling suffers because of it. But unlike that stuff, this is NXT, where you do have it's not just some bums. It's Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. And it's not goofy.
And
this is a storyline that you fully believe.
Right. But that's actually the downfall of this. Is because NXT is so good with their wrestling and with their storytelling in ring. Like, if they on Raw were going to take an hour and a half to do an interview with Seth Rollins to figure out why he's decided he's Jesus now.
I don't want to see that.
I would, but that's the thing. If that took up an hour and a half of Raw, I wouldn't be pissed because it's Raw. This is NXT. I was like, dude, excited. And then I sat down and I was like, wow, they're really not doing a whole match tonight.
The thing was, though, and that's, again, I agree with you in the fact that they should have done something, but the fact that I'm not mad at them for taking that first hour and a half or whatever, how long it was, to flesh out a storyline that good, especially the way they did it, that long form promo. Oh my God, and we're going to get into it, but
I agree 100% with you on that.
It's when you get into... Well, I'm not even mad at the Finn Balor one, because that was like all of 10 minutes?
Yeah, but I mean, it didn't need to happen. It didn't, because he's explained it.
What didn't need... but I did feel like that was one where he never still really was like, what was the reason? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, he kind of alluded to it, but he never really did. So I feel like I'm okay. I would have been perfectly fine if they did Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, then they do the Finn Balor thing, and then we do something at the end. Like, I mean, you at that point, you still had about, 15 minutes left on the show?
20 minutes, probably.
20-ish minutes. You could have done something. But then we got... Now, this is a storyline that really needed no fleshing out. You got the Rhea Ripley thing.
Yeah, and where she's come from and where she's going and why she hates Charlotte.
Like, we didn't need to know that. Like, this is... that is a storyline that literally explains itself.
And it's a match that builds itself, too.
Exactly.
So,
that's not something where we need to go, okay, let's take 15, 20 minutes and go, well, where's Rhea Strummer? What's her background? Which, ironically, they didn't have Charlotte in this at all, which I just thought was hilarious. I mean, I guess the one thing I learned is that Rhea apparently is Australian, which I just thought she was from the UK, so you learned something new, I guess.
So why don't you go ahead and start fleshing out these promos for us?
Well, I'm only going to really deep dive into two. I'm going to do the Finn Balor, and because, again, it's Rhea Ripley, Charlotte. You know what you got there. It's two women that want to fight for a championship, and they hate each other because they're the complete opposite. So, you got your storyline. But I'll start with what's most important. Actually, you know what? I'm going to jump into the Finn Balor one first, just because that one's a little bit shorter. So, Finn Balor starts at the beginning. He talks about how he came into WWE, how he was widely regarded back in Japan as one of the best wrestlers, and he was the best wrestler in the world. How his debut in NXT, phenomenal. He ran through the competition. He was at the top, tippity top, highest you could go. He had that spark, that fire for competition. And then he goes on to the main roster, to Monday Night Raw. And
Fifth draft pick.
Gets immediately inserted into a number one contendership match for the Universal Championship. Knocks off
with my favorite thing where he talks about all the people that he beat in that match except Chris Jericho.
If I recall, I thought about this a little more. Jericho wasn't in that match.
Really?
No, he was not. Huh. It was the people. Now Jericho was, I believe, in that circle of people that were on Raw.
Oh, he didn't qualify for it because didn't they have singles matches to qualify for the match, and then you had to win that match, and then you had to beat Roman.
Yes. So so there were qualification matches, and then you had to get into that last match. So there was he talks about how he had to beat the likes of people like Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, and he beat them all to become number one contender. He goes off to fight Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship. He talks about how he was the best wrestler in the world. Proved it. He beat Seth Rollins. He, within less than a month, goes to Monday Night Raw, goes from being the best on NXT to being the best on Raw, and proved it. Said, I am number one.
And then Seth did the thing with the shoulder.
Yep, he did the thing where he kills people, and...
Yep, instead of a buckle bomb, you went with a barricade bomb.
And instead of Finn Balor being able to go home celebrating, drinking in the victory he just had, he had to go straight to the back, go to a hospital because he was injured. And people were saying, oh, poor Finn Balor. No, poor Finn. Finn proved he's the best wrestler in the world. Finn won the Universal Championship. There's no poor Finn there. So he goes on about how he had to rehab for 9 months, wasn't sure where his career was going to go after that, and he comes back. And this is where I really like what he was doing, because he talks about how some of the biggest criticisms, how like he was in matches like with Bobby Lashley and
Jinder
Mahal, but he goes, I mean, people criticize, but I took those people to some of the best matches of their career. I did that because I'm the best in the world. Funny how all these people, Bobby Lashley had the best match of his career with me because that's what I do. Jinder Mahal, the best match of his career with me because that's what I do. Win or lose doesn't matter. These people got elevated because they were in the ring with me. Talked about his match, against Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. And if you remember that match was really good.
Yes.
And Finn came this close, but Brock got the better of him. He did end up winning, but he talked about, again, I was the best in the world. And not only that, but I realized that night what I was missing. Brock Lesnar, that match, it reminded me of that fire that I had in NXT. I realized that's what was missing. That's
fire from the matches with Joe, with Owens,
with Sami Zayn, with Shinsuke Nakamura. He didn't mention those, but come on. So he said, you know what? That's what I'm missing. So he goes back to NXT, but he's not back in NXT just to be in NXT. He's back to prove that he's still the best in the world, because that's where you go to fight the best talent in the world. That's where he went to get his fire back. Talks about how this is now his show. That, he's 38 years old, he's getting up there in age, doesn't know how many years he's got left to do this. So he wants to be at the very top. He's coming for the NXT Championship. Talks about Walter, talks about how, at one point, me and you are going to get in the ring together. With everything that's happening right now, I don't know when that's going to be. But NXT is full of amazing talent. So anyone that wants it, come get it. So basically just throwing out the gauntlet. So I loved this whole thing from Finn Balor, talking about why he made the transition from the Demon back to the Prince, talking about his whole storyline career in WWE. I thought it did wonders for him to really flesh out his character. And to be honest, it does add a little bit of realism to this. I mean, that was kind of the big criticism from main roster Finn, was that, oh, he's too smiley, he's in matches with garbage people. But I mean, at the end of the day, what never changed was people still saying, we talk about who's one of the best in the world.
It's Finn Balor.
It's Finn Balor. You still put him, you can tell he kind of has an annoyance about people when when now you talk about some of the best wrestlers in the world. Maybe your first thought isn't Finn. Your first thought goes to maybe a Kenny. It goes to a Kazuchika Okada. It goes to an AJ. And he's pissed about the fact that my name isn't in those conversations anymore, and they should be, because I didn't change. I'm still the best in the damn business. So it's that fire. It's that I'm still the best in the world. And yeah, hats off to you, Finn Balor. I can't wait to see where his career goes in NXT. A little sad that he floated the idea that, I don't got how many ideas left. Please don't go anywhere, Finn. Please. So, at least not anytime soon.
Yeah.
So, at least, prayerfully, you still got another 5-10 years in your career. At least. So, yeah, I hope so. So, now I'm going to jump into the main storyline for the night, which was the whole Tommaso Ciampa versus Johnny Gargano storyline. My goodness. They go way to the beginning. I'm talking like Performance Center auditions, tryouts.
Yeah, they're talking about the tryouts, and that in their tryout, neither of them made it.
Ironically,
Chucky T.
Well, Chucky T is there, but also ironically the fact that Ciampa's 4 and Johnny Gargano's 5 when they're calling the numbers and the names out. So even which, my God, you couldn't have planned that any better, right?
No.
But, yeah, neither one of them, they talked about the fact that they felt like their audition went as perfect as it could go. Everything was clicking, but they only had one contract available, and neither one of them got it. But it actually worked out for the better because with that, they realized that they had amazing chemistry together. So they would go out, travel the indie scene together, build camaraderie. They'd live together. They'd travel the road together. Mm-hmm. And then eventually they'd both get the call to go to NXT.
Yeah, so they get the call about the Cruiserweight Classic, and Johnny Gargano was in it. And Tommaso Ciampa is not scheduled to be in it. And he calls up Triple H and he says, hey, I know that you're finalizing the field for your Cruiserweight Classic there. I was wondering if you had a spot for me. Because, I mean, I know that I must not be in your plans if you haven't called me yet. But, I mean, think about it. A first-round match with Johnny Gargano, who I've been working with my whole life. Well, basically my whole life when it comes to wrestling. And Triple H said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
And so it happens. And I still remember watching that match.
That match was out of this world.
It was amazing, especially because at the time they had been teaming together a little bit before. Mm-hmm. So it was that, oh no, are they gonna best friends? Where's that gonna go from there? And they definitely teased it a little bit, and they talked about that how Tommaso Ciampa at one point pulls down his knee guard and was going to use the exposed knee and strike Johnny in the face, but then he had second thoughts. He hesitated. Johnny did not hesitate to super kick Tommaso Ciampa, pick up the victory in advance. And Tommaso goes, all this time, that's on me, I hesitated. I had second thoughts. I don't blame Johnny at all for that. He did what he had to do. Talked about how, how they would come on together, how Tommaso was at Johnny Gargano's wedding with, was it Candice LeRae?
Yes.
And how they actually, all three of them moved in together. So just really building that brotherly bond, that storyline. And then Johnny goes to Tommaso and starts saying, I really feel like the chemistry we have, everything we're doing, that we can win the titles. We can win the tag team championships. So they challenge the Revival first time for the tag titles, and they lose because Johnny Gargano taps out. Tommaso goes, I don't know for sure what I would have done in that situation, but I just can't imagine myself tapping out. So a little bit of seed planted there. We then go on to the second time they challenge where they get it done. They knock off the Revival, and that's highest height, best you can go, right? But then Tommaso Ciampa goes, I can admit this. In that match, I was not the star. It was Johnny Gargano, Johnny wrestling. You could hear it. You could see what he was doing in the match. I was not the star of that match. And it's there where you start to... Tommaso Ciampa starts to realize, this whole thing is great. We're at the best we could do, but maybe it's not the best for me. So they go on. They defend their titles all around the world. They go on a European tour. They go to Japan, Australia, all around the world. And then inevitably, though, they lose their titles to Authors of Pain. And it's then Tommaso Ciampa, he realized, maybe something's got to change here. I don't know if, they Candice LeRae and Johnny start to realize it at home, maybe, but something's just not right.
Well, and he does mention that at that time, it's when he starts getting his shoulder injuries, and
yes.
he's not feeling 100%. He's like, the last thing I needed was to face a team like the Authors of Pain, who are just massive.
Yeah, at this point, his body's beat up. He needs a break, but, he's got to defend his titles, and they do inevitably lose, and then they can't get them back. They challenge 3 times, and every time they just come up short. They can't get it done. And that's the last time, that's the breaking point. Tommaso Ciampa, he says, I have no regrets. I did what I had to do. We couldn't get it done as a team. Our DIY's moment was over. So it was my moment. And we all know what happens. He attacks Johnny Gargano, and then he goes away for 9 months to have his surgeries.
Yep. He has a knee surgery and some shoulder surgeries as well.
And Johnny Gargano talks about how he knew he was going away. Instead of talking to me, we could have worked this out. No, he knew what was going to happen. He knew he was going to go away for 9 months. So when he was going away, he wanted me to go away too. He wanted to take me out with him. But that's not what happens. Johnny Gargano comes back. He gets healthy. And it's all him. Spotlight's all on him. So the crowd's behind him. The Johnny Wrestling chants. He's getting his career back. Tommaso Ciampa talks about it. He goes, yeah, he rebounded. He starts getting back to the top. Inevitably, he challenges for the NXT World Championship. Says that, I let him have his moment. I could have came out, done whatever, but I let him have his moment. And he didn't get it done. So then I took my moment after. He attacks Johnny Gargano after Johnny loses the match for the NXT Championship. So at this point, these two go back and forth, and Ciampa gets his moment again. He interferes in the match for Johnny Gargano's career because at this point he went on a little bit of a slump. So he had a match for his career. Tommaso Ciampa interferes. Johnny's gone. Ciampa's trying to take his moment, build his spotlight, but all he's seeing is the fans. All they care about is Johnny Gargano. Everywhere he goes, they're chanting Johnny Wrestling. They're seeing the t-shirts, the signs. So finally, it's going to be Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa in an unsanctioned match. And if Johnny wins, he's back in the company. Tommaso, though, he says, none of that bothered me. This is what I wanted the whole time. This is my spotlight. I get my match on a takeover. Just prove to everyone what I already knew, that I am the greatest sports entertainer of all time. I'm the best in the world. And everyone's going to realize they've been sleeping on me this whole time. And he did that. Mm-hmm. It was at this moment where if you didn't realize that Tommaso Ciampa maybe wasn't just second fiddle to Johnny Gargano, but maybe they were equal. That's the match you realized it. Now, Johnny does win the match. He gets back into NXT, and they battle some more. Next time, Tommaso Ciampa gets the victory. And then Ciampa goes on to compete for the NXT Championship.
And Johnny Gargano goes on to compete for the NXT North American Championship.
So Johnny helps Tommaso Ciampa win the NXT Championship. He, of course, wins the North American Championship. And he tells us that, this is all part of the plan. Because I knew if I wanted to get where I wanted to get, that I had to make Ciampa believe that I was just like him. That I had to get close to him, make him believe that we were the same, that I had the same intention that he did, but I don't. That I'm nothing like him. So he starts getting close. They reformed DIY. That's when you started seeing them popping up on Raw and SmackDown, when that whole weird thing with Vince pulling NXT talent, not to put them on the show, but just to have them kind of pop up, happen. But tragedy strikes as Tommaso Ciampa gets injured. The injury where we don't know if Ciampa's going to come back. Johnny goes, it's fate, Now it's my moment again. Now it's my time.
Johnny Gargano gets a match for the NXT World Championship. Best 2 out of 3 falls with Adam Cole.
Baby. And he wins. He's finally done it. He's had his moment. Johnny Gargano is NXT World Champion.
He celebrates with Candice LeRae. They're up on the stage. And Tommaso Ciampa comes out. And they embrace. They hug.
No backstabbing, no attack. Just two brothers embracing, sharing in the moment. Tommaso Ciampa explains, this is it. This is the moment. Johnny goes, maybe I felt like, we could finally put everything behind us. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. I was just so caught up in the moment. I saw my best friend. So I didn't think about it. Ciampa goes, I thought maybe we could put everything behind us. Maybe we could move on. Johnny Gargano's first title defense, he loses. Okay. Now it's my time again. Ciampa steps up. Goes for the NXT Championship. And it's at this point he knew that something was off. Johnny goes, Ciampa comes back and what really didn't sit right with me is that they're chanting "Daddy's home," right?
He gets a hero's welcome.
People start to the focus starts to lean more to Tommaso Ciampa.
They pretend like nothing ever happened.
I didn't hear an apology. I don't understand. But it's what the people want. I always do what the people want. So I reformed DIY because that's what the people wanted. But at some point, what about me? What about what I want? And what I wanted was the NXT Championship. So
during that match, I went down ringside.
True and purest intentions.
I was there to help out my best friend because that's how I saw it.
And before that, Ciampa explained how this was it. This is the moment he's been waiting for. Triple H talked about how when he says that that's his life, he meant it. The whole time he was rehabbing and getting ready, like he was just calling the whole time, every day. What can I do? What can I do to get back early? Can I at least show my face? Do something to, just get close. So this is his life. This meant everything to him. Tommaso Ciampa goes on to say, this is what I've been waiting for. I was gonna get Cody back. I knew there was nothing Adam Cole could do, nothing anyone could do to beat me. You were gonna have to kill me to win that match. But then I saw my best friend come out.
Johnny Gargano says, when I looked into his eyes, when he grabbed that belt, I saw something that only I could know, only I have ever seen. When Tommaso Ciampa looked at me that night, I saw the same look that I saw when he threw me into the stage at TakeOver Chicago. I saw the same eyes, the same look he gave me when he turned his back on me.
And Ciampa explains that when he looked at Johnny, he said, I had a feeling. I just knew what he was out there to really do. He wasn't out there to support me. So Johnny took his moment. Clocks him with the belt. Adam Cole retains. So then Ciampa explains, people sit here and they say that we're destined to do this forever, to fight forever. When it comes to Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, we just might. So, it was long. It was definitely long, but it needed to be. They needed to take every moment that they did to explain, deep dive, just what the hell we've been watching the last 3 years.
Well, and especially for those who maybe didn't watch when it was on the network but are now watching that it's on USA, this is a great way to, hey, here's a catch-up on this storyline and why these two dudes are fighting as much as they are.
And they showed, what was nice that they showed portions of the matches, the big matches. I mean, we saw the match between AOP and Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. We saw the Tommaso Ciampa versus Johnny Gargano match, the first one.
And the second one.
And we saw a little bit of the second one. But we got a whole ending portion for that first one. We got the replay of the Tommaso Ciampa versus Adam Cole championship match, the one that just happened at Portland. So it was phenomenal the way they explained it, and honestly, throughout the majority of that promo package, I looked at Nick and I'm saying, Johnny's the face in all this,
Yeah, I mean, if he's not the face, he's the sympathetic heel.
Yeah, I mean, you get everything. You understand his action. And they turn him full heel at the end. He's calling the fans idiots, and he's saying, none of you understand. Only I can understand, what's happening. But, you really do get it. But you also understand that his actions still aren't right. I mean, it's still rooted in jealousy, maybe a little bit of paranoia as well. And you also, by the end of it, you understand Tommaso Ciampa. I mean, what he did, what he had to do, but at the same time, he tried to redeem himself. I mean, he talks about how he did interfere. He did, backstab Johnny Gargano, but when Johnny had his opportunity at his moment, both times, he let him have his moment. He let him fight for the NXT Championship. He lost the first time. He let him...
I didn't interfere in that match. I attacked him afterwards.
Exactly. I let him, have his moment when he won the NXT Championship. He lost it in his first title defense. And then what did Johnny do? First chance I get, he interferes in my moment, makes it about him. So it's the justified evil aspect. Like, it's showing what I love about this is that it's so human. It's so raw and real because human beings aren't black and white. It's not good and evil. No one's perfect. Like, when you have a situation where two men hate each other, where they're fighting, when they're arguing, you're always, there's wrong on both sides. In any argument, there's wrong on both sides. Otherwise, you wouldn't be fighting. So that's the realest part about this, is that there's really no good guy in the storyline. I mean, again, you kind of saw them try to lean more heavy to the heel for Johnny at the end there, but still, with everything they talked about, no one really comes out of this the good guy. And it's not about good guy versus bad guy here. It's about guy versus guy. Two people that are destined to fight forever, the reasons why, explaining that, and then just letting them go out there and do what they do, be two of the best wrestlers in the world. That's what this is about. And that's what this needs to be about. This is, and even at the end, they even say, this is beyond the NXT World Championship. It's past that. This is about two guys that want to be the face of the black and gold brand. But only one of us can. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem. So I love this because it's real. It's not that corny fake stuff that we see on the main roster. Yes, while some of it I do like. I mean, again, I talk about the Undertaker stuff. We all know when the lights go down and he pops up behind people. He's not
in position.
He's not teleporting. He's sprinting from one area to the other. But we still pop for that stuff. We're all kids at heart. I mean, we love to see some of that goofy stuff. Sometimes it's funny. I mean, you see it with the comedy wrestling with Orange Cassidy and whatever. Like, you need to have a little bit of lighthearted. Sometimes you got to turn your brain off. I mean, that's what this is. At the end of the day, it's entertainment. But you can have your kind of goofier, almost like Avenger level stuff that's a little bit more rooted, like not a little bit more comical, but then you also need to have your stuff that's more rooted in reality, that's more grounded, based on real events, real things that happen. And this is what this is about. This is just two men that just want to fight. And that's what I love about this. This is what pro wrestling is down when you boil it down to its core. It's supposed to be two men that just want to beat the hell out of each other, and they're going to go out there and give you a classic like they always do. And that is why I love NXT. That is why I love these two men. That is why I love pro wrestling. Because that is what it's supposed to be. No cheesy, corny bull. Again, you can have a little bit of it sprinkled in. But when it's your whole show, that's the problem. And you don't get that in AEW. You don't get that on NXT. And that's why I love it. And that is why I love what they did tonight. Again, you could have done it better. You absolutely could have done it better by not having the last segment with Rhea. Could have had a match. Please, next time, if you do this again next week, have a match, please. And again, I don't even know if, and we don't know the backstage part of it. I mean, we'll definitely hear about, I'm assuming we're going to hear some news come out within the next couple of days over this next week about, with Raw and SmackDown being at the PC, with everything that's happening, potentially with WrestleMania being there. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's just they can't use the PC right now, which if that does come out, then I get it. I can't even be mad about it. If that ends up being the reason that, we just cannot use the PC right now for the facilities being used, then I get it. Then at that point, then I give you slack for that. But if it's just the fact that, no, we just want to use the whole show to build storylines, I ain't mad at you for it, but I kind of wish you didn't.
Yeah.
So, and it's for that reason, stacked on everything that AEW did, which is why AEW, again, is my show of the night for this week. But NXT, by no stretch of the means, was a bad show for me.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I watch wrestling for the wrestling. Not that I don't love the storylines, and the Gargano Ciampa storyline is so compelling that I was willing to sit through it. But at the same time, I needed more from NXT. I mean, especially after watching AEW and Brody Lee and Matt Hardy and But I don't know, man. There's something about a wrestling show that does not have a single wrestling match on it. It felt like I was watching, like, Backstage or Smack Talk or something. Like, it's great. I'm all for it. And it did something super important. It's just not what I was looking for.
Yeah, I mean, again, I guess that's... it's just kind of like... For me, I wish, again, that you had some wrestling, at least, on this show. But I get, again, the reason I ain't fully mad at it is because what's everyone's biggest criticism of NXT is that you guys are just moving too fast. You guys, like, you never take a time to slow down and build the storyline. So the fact that you did that tonight, and again, we don't know what the whole backstage thing is with the Performance Center, because you gotta believe there's something going on with that. You've got now 3 shows plus pay-per-views that are now going to be using the PC. Yep. So there's gotta be... It's got to be a shit show, for lack of better words.
You know what's ironic, though? What would absolutely have been perfect is the one thing that I always trash NXT for. Tonight would have been the perfect night to have all this storyline for an hour and a half and have a developmental match at the end of the night. Or have a dev match to kick it off. Because, look, if you don't want your wrestlers to get hurt or you don't want your wrestlers to get sick or whatever it is... I mean, you could have showcased somebody.
I think in terms of developmental talent, I think we're too far into WrestleMania and TakeOver season to do that.
That's what I'm saying. If you don't want to throw together a match that has something to do with WrestleMania or TakeOver, though, if you don't want something featuring one of your big talents right now, you could do it. You could put Cameron Grimes and Damian Priest in a match. That builds something. That builds towards the match at TakeOver, arguably, if it's going to be a fatal 4-way like you think.
If the match even happens, because at this point it kind of seems like if this continues with the whole coronavirus things, which at least for the foreseeable, the next week and a half to 2 weeks, I mean, it's going to continue, and with whatever's happening, the Performance Center is happening, and whatever happens with WrestleMania, I mean, there are rumors coming out now that Mania may not actually even be happening in the Performance Center, that this whole thing might be a ploy, that Florida might actually still pull the plug on it regardless, that they don't care that it's in the PC. They might just go, nope, can't do this, you got to pull it. Because you got to think, too, also, the difference between having a Raw, SmackDown, and NXT in the PC versus having something like WrestleMania and a TakeOver where you, instead of just having your essential crew and talent, you're having everybody. You got to think that's definitely more than they probably want. So I could believe that if Orlando's just yeah, no, y'all, you got to pull the plug on that. So we don't know. Everything's in the dark. So and the fact that NXT didn't just come out and just do what Raw and SmackDown. That's why I did what I did for the Raw review, because it is pathetic when you do something like that. So I have to commend NXT for, again, going left field, someplace that I never could have predicted them doing, and going, we're not going to give you matches, but we're going to continue to, build towards our show. What a concept. Instead of just, here's things that don't matter, soak it up, and by the way, here's something from Rumble too, because reasons. So at least, again, they checked all my boxes in terms of my biggest complaints for most shows, so I can't be mad at it.
And again, that's why I'm not going to sit here and say it was bad. It's just not what I wanted out of NXT this week.
Right.
Because it could have been SmackDown or Raw. I mean, when I got over, what I said to you was, can we watch AEW first in case it's like SmackDown or Raw and we have to skip through a TakeOver match or something?
Well, I don't ever want the bar for NXT to be, at least it's not SmackDown or Raw. It'll never be SmackDown and Raw. So I feel like there's got to, for me, I'm not going, I don't want my, and if that's how I'm coming off, then I'm sorry. That's not my praise for NXT tonight. It's not, well, it wasn't Raw and SmackDown, which it wasn't just that it wasn't just Raw and SmackDown, but because, again, they built storylines. They did that long form promo, again, with Johnny and Tommaso. It's probably the best thing I've seen promo-wise this whole year. That was amazing. I would love, you could do a whole, this is what I love about WWE, the network, is that the specials they do are always tip-top shape, always phenomenal. So, I mean, you get a thumbs up from me, NXT. I mean, AEW gets 20 thumbs up tonight, but you get You get one for me, NXT tonight. So, good job. Good job.
You get an Orange Cassidy from me, which is so much better than this, which is what SmackDown and Raw got. So,
well, SmackDown doesn't even get a gesture except one that I can't do on camera. And Raw just, like, if I had more than two hands, that's what I would do. Yeah, there we go. Just all the thumbs downs for Raw. SmackDown, again, I can't even, like, explain my hatred of that show. Again, that's why we don't do a SmackDown review anymore. So, that is, That's really everything. I mean, there's nothing really more to talk about. We deep dived into both shows. Again, NXT did good. AEW, phenomenal. Really hope, fingers crossed, that the show for next week doesn't get canceled.
Yeah, so there are rumors that they may cancel Dynamite next week.
I hope not.
But that they plan to continue doing it on a week-by-week basis. So the idea is the biggest issue is they're looking for somewhere to hold Blood and Guts, because it would be so difficult to do that at Daly's Place.
Well, looking at Daly's Place though, you could have, because they set it up like there was going to be a crowd there, so you could have just pushed the crowd back, and then just set up another ring.
And that's the thing. You could put it side by side across the stage, which would be just fine. But I'm also worried about the whole structure and having that raised and lowered.
It just depends on how big it is. I mean, you don't.
Well, it depends on how much it weighs.
Well, they're not going to raise it or lower it. They're just going to set it up. It's War Games. Like they don't lower those. At least with the NXT ones they do. But for like the original ones, no. You would just, here it is, set it up like they just do it during commercial break. Kind of like what they do when they have like the random Hell in a Cell matches that just sometimes pop up on like a Raw. It's not like dangling from, like you don't see it dangling from the ceiling. It's just like you come back and there's a cell. Yeah. So,
all right. Well, the idea is hopefully,
fingers crossed.
Hopefully,
please,
we get this next week. Matt Hardy and the Elite versus the Inner Circle.
And real fast, I'm gonna get a little unfiltered here for a second. I believe this whole situation sucks. I mean, I just want this to be over. I'm sure everyone else feels the same way I do. We want this to be over. So. Just prayers that the scientists, the medical, and the medical crowd, whatever, I'm fumbling my words here even, are just props that we're able to get this cure, get this vaccine down so that we can go ahead and just wipe this out and just move on from it. Because I'm sure, like me, you all just want to be done with this crisis and ready to go back, get some sense of normalcy back into our lives.
And to our elected officials as well for trying to be expedient with this. I mean, I know that, I'm personally affected by the coronavirus shutting down businesses, but the bailout package that was passed today, the bailout package that was passed today, hopefully will be signed into law. And additionally to everyone who is being proactive in the government, to state leaders. I don't want to say our governor in particular, because there are governors all across the United States who are taking measures to make sure that nobody gets infected. To you guys, thank you guys so much for taking care of us, for making us make the hard decisions for making them for us instead of having us make hard decisions like, should I go into work or not today? And I would like to say, for those of you who might be like, aren't you guys supposed to be in quarantine or something? Myself and Marcus are both self-quarantining at our homes. I only leave the house to come here to shoot in the studio.
And I literally haven't left the house since Sunday.
So we are taking care of ourselves as well, because, the show must go on, right?
Absolutely.
Even if I have to do it in a hazmat suit. But thank you guys for tuning in a time like this. And thank you for dealing with stinker videos like we had on Monday to get through to videos like we had today.
Sure, that was entertaining in its own right.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Shout out today to Griffin for joining Team Fight Mode.
Hate you, Griffin.
Shout to you, my friend.
Yeah, we ain't. Next time I see you, bro, it's on site.
Additionally, to just everybody who tunes in on a daily basis, I have so many so many friends that I want to thank, so many family members. And shout out, actually, to one of our managers, Lexi. Today she gave me the perfect idea, and this is what we're going to be doing. But, yeah, shout out to everybody who keeps giving us ideas, too. I mean, we've had quite a few people who've sent us some suggestions on what to do, where to go going forward for bits, for parts, for this, that, and the other thing. So, I mean, I know we do this part literally every show now, where we thank you guys for everything, but, I mean, it means a lot.
Absolutely.
It means a lot because we went from literally no engagement at all with our fans to you guys just outpouring of support.
Especially
I
on
need
Instagram.
more.
Especially on Instagram. You guys are amazing.
Yeah.
Like, keep it up, seriously.
I need more.
Twitter, where y'all at?
I know.
So, with that being said,
Speaking of the Instagram and the Twitter,
Wrevolution Pro Wrestling Podcast, always our socials down in the link below if you're watching this on YouTube. Of course, we are available not only on YouTube, but on the iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Podcast, and
Podbean!
as well as wherever you can find fine quality pro wrestling podcast. So, with that being said, live from Studio 6, got anything else?
Live from Studio 6, I am your world champion. Good night.
I'm not finishing that.
You're not?
No.
Mwah. And goodbye. Bang.
My name is Marcus White. Have a great night.
Have a good night, guys.
And don't forget to join the Wrevolution.
Wow, how did I forget?